Now, in some cases, is this a residential program for kids? Do kids actually live in the facility, or is it more or less sort of a day camp, for want of a better term?
Well, the children that come to us are coming from our residential program. Down the road is where our housing campus is. So they come from there, but they also are referred to us from the St. Louis Park School District. There are kids that they identify that could use our services, more nurturing and mentoring, having a safe place to go after school. So we will take children who are in the free or reduced lunch program of St. Louis Park School District. So it's half of our kids are coming from our housing program and half are coming from the community.
Now, you're headquartered in St. Louis Park, but do you serve clients throughout the Twin Cities metro and perhaps even beyond?
Well, families can come from all over. However, our Kids Connection program is only for the children living within St. Louis Park. And that's due to the transportation. They're on the after-school bus, in the fall, and we provide the transportation to and from their homes during the summer months. So just logistically, the kids are coming from that area for Kids Connection. But for our supportive housing program, our residents are coming from treatment programs and the shelters, prisons, the street, and they interview to get into our program because we have limited housing. We have 5 apartment buildings all right next to each other, so total campus. 52 apartments are there, all furnished. So the women who come into our program have to interview because you can imagine, there's 75, 100 people on a waiting list all the time. We turn 15 away a day. So they come into the apartments and they can live there for up to 2 years, some longer, and that's where the children come from, from that housing area.
I know there are confidentiality issues, but in some broad terms, could you tell us how you've seen lives change as a result of this program, both adult women and children?
Well, that's what keeps us going, because we see so much success with a woman who comes into our program basically carrying everything she has in a plastic bag. Coming, as I said, from shelters has lost everything due to her addiction and then her homelessness. And she comes, 50% come without their children. Her children are in child protection. So you can imagine the life change of just reuniting that family, which we do within usually about 6 months. 98% of the women will get their children back. So that's one of the big life changes. And then the sobriety of that woman. And we have all kinds of programs. Down at the Family Center, we have a mini bus going back and forth between our housing campus and the Family Center all day long, working around life skills training for the residents. And of course, we want to get them in, to higher training, into colleges and into trade schools, some just to finish their GED. Again, life-changing, getting their license back for, a car that they've lost their license, getting their credit back, working with them around their credit, getting them employed and staying sober, having their children back. So it's amazingly life-changing what happens to them from the time they enter to when they leave. And of course, some don't do as well if they relapse. We don't have a program where you can stay if you're still using. We have 120 children living in our buildings and our apartments, so we have to keep it's a safe, sober community, and we maintain that. But 75% of them really do well.
And your clients, I assume, come from all walks of life, all socioeconomic groups, because certainly chemical dependency is a disease that impacts people of all backgrounds.
Right. But this is more geared to what is considered the hardest to serve, the women with the greatest barriers. And poverty is that great barrier. Women who have had big safety nets underneath them, families and financial resources, don't usually end up in shelters. So it really is more of the lower economic women that we see without those financial resources, or else they could have come from families where they have, where there has been a lot of resources, but these families are, basically have, just washed their hands of them and said you can't come back, and they have been torn apart. Many of the families have been torn apart. So those families are reunited as well, having a child in your family who has, just ripped the family apart because of their addiction, and now sober and living, with their children and grandchildren. Again, these families can be reunited. But I think the majority of our families are coming, the women with very little resources and very little support network with their families.
Jeannie Seeley-Smith is the Executive Director of Perspectives, Inc. in St. Louis Park. We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about this program. We'll be back in just a moment.